It's 5 p.m. on Friday, and Karen Hearn-Slover rushes out of work to buy a new dress for a wedding she's attending with her boyfriend on Saturday.
Karen was only 23 years old at the time. She worked at the Herald and Review newspaper in Decatur.
She's a bit rushed, as she's also supposed to get her son before he gets home.
She lit up the room when she came in, and she had dreams of becoming a model. That's what her hope was.
That very day, she signs a contract for her first professional modeling job, and she's very excited about it.
Everything seems to be going well for the beautiful young woman, until she drives out of the newspaper parking lot and is never seen again. What happened to Karen is a mystery that will take years to solve.
The door was open, the lights were on, the engine was running. It looked like perhaps she had been abducted alongside of the road.
Was this a random attack by a sexual predator?
She didn't pick up her son. She didn't call anyone. She just vanished.
This is a shocking crime to take place in a community of this size.
Multiple searches turned up nothing that could explain who killed her or even where she was killed.
I think there was also a lot of doubt in the community that we would be able to prove this case.
But there was one small detail, a clue so small that it had been missed for years.
Will one tiny clue be enough to ensure that a vicious killer is finally caught? Decatur is the largest city in Macon County, Illinois, with a population of approximately 70,000. It's also the county seat.
Decatur is a medium-sized city right in the middle of the state of Illinois. We're the soybean capital of the world. It's a lot of agribusiness in Decatur. We used to be heavily industrial, but in the 1970s and 80s, a lot of those factories shut down. But a lot of agribusiness. It's just your average Midwest community.
Nearby Mount Zion is much smaller, but is home to nearly 6,000 people.
Mount Zion actually abuts Decatur. You couldn't call it a suburb, but it's kind of like a suburb. The two towns have kind of grown together, but it's a much smaller town. A lot of people that live in Mount Zion work in Decatur, but it's a very small, quiet community.
The Herald and Review is a daily newspaper based in Decatur, Illinois. It was founded in April of 1872 and has been serving the community ever since.
One of the many people in the office on September 27, 1996, is Karen Hearn-Slover, who's working as an advertisement sales rep for the paper.
Karen was only 23 years old at the time. She worked at the Herald and Review newspaper in Decatur. She was employed in sales.
I guess you could say it's her day job, and she needs it because she's a single mother with a child to support.
She had one son who was 3 years old at that time, and she was recently divorced.
A lot of people who get a job at a newspaper, well, they're there because they want to be writers, not Karen. She had other ideas.
Everybody that talked to that knew her said that she was had this bubbly personality. She lit up the room when she came in. She was very devoted to her son, and she had dreams of becoming a model. That's what her hope was.
She has the looks for it, that's for sure. But it's a tough business to get into, and not many who do become successful. But Karen just might be one of the few who make it.
Karen Gell Hearn was born on October 27, 1972, to proud parents Larry and Donna Hearn in Champaign, Illinois. Karen attends MacArthur High School in Decatur and goes on to earn an associate degree at Richland Community College.
She's also a member of the First United Methodist Church in Champaign.
After finding out that she's pregnant, Karen marries her boyfriend Michael Slover Jr. on January 2, 1993. 6 months later, she gives birth to their son, Brandon.
Well, like a lot of moms, Karen goes back to work after giving birth. Michael's mother, Jeanette, becomes the primary babysitter for Brandon, while Karen's mom, Donna, watches him a couple times a week.
In April of 1996, Karen and Michael Jr. get divorced.
They're very young, got married very young, and perhaps because of pregnancy. It's not surprising that it wouldn't last forever.
There was a unique provision in the divorce decree that Jeanette had to be the child's babysitter until he started school, which was very unusual.
You usually talk about custody, and Karen and Michael have joint custody of Brandon.
One of the attorneys that was involved in the case, a very experienced attorney who'd been doing divorce cases for years, and he said he had never, ever seen a provision like that in a divorce decree.
Jeanette has always been the primary babysitter. Karen might want to change that, but Michael won't agree to the divorce unless his mother remains in that role.
So she agreed to it, that Jeanette had to be the babysitter for the child.
After the divorce, Karen meets a man named Brian Maxey at the Decatur Health Club. Now, the two wind up dating for 3 months before breaking up. After her breakup, Karen works with a man named David Swan, who is a circulation district sales manager at the Herald. They get along very well, and before long, they become romantically involved.
September 27th, 1996 was a work day for Karen.
She wakes up early, takes a shower, and then makes arrangements to have the use of a vehicle.
Karen's car at that time had some kind of a mechanical problem, so on that day, Swan loaned his vehicle to Karen because she had to make some rounds at work and get back and forth to work.
At 8:30 a.m., Karen stops by her parents' house.
Karen has an early sales meeting in Springfield, so she stops on the way to visit her father, Larry, who works in a home office. She stays there for approximately 45 to 60 minutes.
Later, at the Herald and Review, Karen receives an unexpected phone call.
She went to work that morning and was notified that she had a modeling contract, which we could prove through Paris World International. It was actually out of Georgia. It was for a short-term modeling. She was very happy. That happened, I think, around 10 o'clock in the morning.
Karen has signed on with Paris World back in July of 1996, but this is her first job offer, so it's very exciting for her.
At 1:20 p.m., Karen runs into David Swan in the Herald and Review parking lot.
They discuss the fact that he's going to a wedding rehearsal dinner that evening, while she picks up her son and buys a new dress for the wedding.
David is on his way to a town called Cerro Gordo. Karen decides to go with him. On the way, they stop by Karen's apartment and pick up some photographs to send to Paris World.
At 3:15 p.m., Karen mails the photographs, a signed modeling contract, and $92 to Paris World. Later, back at the office, Karen gets another phone call. She tells the person on the other end about her new modeling job.
People at work said she was bouncing off the walls, happy. She had done some modeling, minor modeling locally, but this, she thought maybe this was her big break.
But as Karen listens to the person on the other end of that phone call, her smile fades away and her expression changes to one of fear.
One of her coworkers who sat close to her said that her appearance at that point changed to a deer in the headlights look. And we don't know what the conversation was on that telephone call, but we can only imagine what was said.
At 4:50 p.m., David Swan receives a telephone call from Karen. She tells him she is about to pick up her son and go shopping.
David asks Karen to buy him some hair gel while she's out, and she agrees.
Just after 5 p.m., Karen leaves the Herald and Review for the last time. She gets into the car that she's borrowed from David Swan and drives off toward Michael and Jeanette Slover's house in Mount Zion to pick up her son Brandon. And for all intents and purposes, she just disappears.
What happened to Karen Slover after she left work on Friday? And is she alive or dead? On the morning of September 27, 1996, 23-year-old Karen Slover is having her own personal historic moment. She's been offered her first professional modeling contract and is bouncing off the walls. At 5 p.m., she leaves the Herald and Review, where she works in sales, and drives off to pick up her 3-year-old son, Brandon. She plans to take him to the mall and do some shopping. The young single mother is never seen again.
Thanks to a fairly unique divorce agreement, Karen's ex-mother-in-law, Jeanette, is the primary babysitter for her son, Brandon.
Jeanette and Karen don't always see eye to eye. Now, they generally only speak to each other about the babysitting schedule. But apparently a month ago, they had a major argument.
Someone suggests putting Brandon in preschool 3 days a week, and they get into a fight about it.
Between 5 o'clock and 5:30, Jeanette decides to take Brandon to a store.
But she knows that Karen will be coming to get Brandon, so she leaves a note explaining where they are. Karen knows how to enter the house if no one is home, so she can either wait there or come and find them.
When Jeanette and Brandon return to the house at 6 p.m., there is no one there.
She thought for sure Karen would be waiting for her by now, but there's no evidence or sign of her having come by.
Now, she tries to call Karen at home a couple of times, but there's no answer. She waits until 8 o'clock, but Karen doesn't show up or call.
Jeanette decides to take Brandon with her to meet Michael Sr. at the used car lot he owns.
Michael Slover Sr. Had a pretty good job. He worked at the Clinton nuclear power plant. He also had a used car lot called Miracle Motors in Mount Zion.
Even after working at the plant all day, Michael Sr. often goes to the car lot. Now, if nothing else, he has to feed the dogs.
Jeanette, Brandon, and Michael Sr. leave the car lot at 8:30, intending to go for dinner. But Brandon falls asleep, so they decide to just go home.
David Swan comes home from the rehearsal dinner and is also surprised to find that Karen and Brandon aren't there.
Between 9:30 and 9:45 p.m., David Swan calls Karen's mother, Donna Hearn. He tells her he is worried that she hasn't come home yet.
Donna isn't worried. She points out that Karen is very active socially, and it's not unusual for her to stay out with people.
It's Friday night. She usually goes out for drinks with coworkers. David has no need to panic.
Kevin Anderson, a Piatt County Sheriff's deputy, is patrolling Interstate 72 at 9:57 p.m. when he spots something suspicious.
We do know that about 9:57 p.m., Mr. Swan's car that she had been driving was found on Interstate 72. It was heading towards Decatur. The door was open, the lights were on, the engine was running. Some of her personal items were still in the vehicle. So it looked like perhaps she had been abducted alongside of the road.
Identifying him as the owner of the car, police call David Swan.
They tell him his car has been found on Interstate 72, empty with the motor running. He tells them that his girlfriend, Karen, is using it. They confirm that she's nowhere to be found.
David calls Karen's dad, Larry, and explains what's happening. Then Larry calls Jeanette and tells her that Karen and Brandon are missing. Now, he's relieved when Jeanette tells him that Brandon is still with her, but of course, still very worried about his daughter.
At approximately 10:15 p.m., Jeanette calls her son, Michael Jr., at work.
One of his jobs is a bouncer at a nightclub. He mans the front door.
Now, it's very busy and loud at the club, so Junior takes a cordless phone outside to talk. He's out there for about 45 minutes and is visibly upset when he returns.
David Swan goes to the scene of the abandoned car and helps investigators make sense of things.
He looks inside the car and is able to tell them what's missing, what's not, and what's out of place.
Things have definitely been moved around inside the car. The garage door opener is near the driver's door but is normally on the visor. A cup and some change is on the passenger seat instead of a cup holder. David's umbrella and Karen's briefcase have been moved from the back seat to the floorboard.
A black purse and a maroon planner are found on the passenger floorboard and collected as possible evidence.
There are several black rocks or cinders on the driver's side floorboard. David Swan is positive that they were not there this morning when Karen borrowed the car. The crime scene technician collects the cinders.
I believe I heard about Karen's disappearance Saturday. It was on the news. Obviously, there were attempts to try to find her in case she was in peril. I remember it was something all weekend you thought about. This poor girl's missing, and you hoped that she'd be found alive and well.
Investigators attempt to use the media to help find Karen.
One of the things that kind of backfired in this investigation was when Karen was missing, David Swan's car, pictures of it were put out on the news media. It was asked for information, did anybody see this car Friday evening or that weekend? It had a rather distinctive license plate, CADS7. People began calling in. There was no dishonesty involved in it, but people truly believed they had seen that car that afternoon and that evening. And we had sightings of this vehicle and Karen herself all over central Illinois. From an hour away, we had people that spotted it on I-74 instead of I-72. People that saw it downtown Decatur at the same time somebody else saw it in 40, 50 miles away.
None of the reported sightings lead the police to Karen or explain what happened to her. Some people are starting to speculate that she's disappeared on purpose, but those who know her say she would never leave her son Brandon behind. He's everything to her.
Sunday afternoon, boaters down at Lake Shelbyville, there was a man walking the shore. He saw a garbage bag. He was going to be a good guy and pick it up and dispose of it properly. When he picked it up, it felt like a human head, so he contacted law enforcement. They came out, and sure enough, it ended up being Karen's head. It was identified through dental records.
Who could have done this to Karen Slover? And why? Aspiring model and employee of the Decatur Herald and Review, Karen Slover leaves work on Friday to pick up her 3-year-old son Brandon in Mount Zion, but never makes it there. Her car is found abandoned at the side of the highway, still running. It appears as if she's been abducted. On Sunday afternoon, a boater at Lake Shelbyville spots a garbage bag floating in the water. It contains a grisly surprise: a woman's head. Dental records will later confirm it to be the decapitated head of Karen Hearn Slover.
Moultrie County is a very rural county. At that time, I think there was only one stoplight still in the entire county. But Lake Shelbyville, which is a large Corps of Engineers lake, is partially in Moultrie County and also Shelby County, but it's much smaller population-wise and just a rural farming county.
The black trash bag is found near Point 6 on Lake Shelbyville, 25 miles southeast of Decatur and 41 miles south of where Karen's car was found.
The head is double bagged. The outer bag is sealed with duct tape, but the inner bag is tied with a knot. There are also pieces of concrete in the bag, presumably to help weigh it down and make it sink. Karen's hair contains small cinders and bits of vegetation, which are removed and collected as possible evidence.
On Monday, September 30th, more garbage bags are found in Lake Shelbyville.
One bag contains 2 hands, another has 2 feet. There's a left thigh found outside of a bag.
1 mile north of the Finley Bridge, a bag is found containing a right chest area and a right upper arm.
A reddish-brown stain is found on the bridge, which is collected and confirmed to be blood. The blood is sent for DNA testing and is confirmed to be the blood of Karen Slover.
The implication seems to be that Karen's body parts were thrown off the Finley Bridge.
And it wasn't until late Monday that her body was identified, and we knew, in fact, that it was her.
It's a sad ending to a weekend-long search for a missing woman. The public had really been hoping that she'd be found alive. But now that it's clearly a murder, everyone is anxious for her killer to be caught.
Karen's entire body is never recovered, but the cause of her death is easily determined. She's been shot 7 times in the head. The shots came from a .22 caliber handgun, which was fired only inches away. Any one of the shots would have been fatal.
With no obvious leads to follow, investigators start by examining the men who are closest to Karen, and the closest is her current boyfriend, David Swan.
It's his car that was found on the highway, and he was with her more than once on the day she disappeared.
David Swan had only been dating Karen for a couple of weeks at that point. He had kind of a checkered background. He had been in some bizarre things with a prior girlfriend. At one point, he had butchered a deer over a swimming pool with a chainsaw. So based on the nature of the crime here and what happened to Karen, he was a suspect early on in this case.
David Swan seems to like the attention he's getting.
After Karen went missing, he went on TV and really kind of exaggerated their relationship, made it seem more serious and more long-term than it was. At one point, he held up a card that he said Karen had given him, where she said that she loved him. And then we found out that it had actually been given to her previous boyfriend, who notified the authorities of that. So Mr. Swan made himself look like a suspect from the beginning.
When looking into his past, investigators learn that David Swan has a criminal record.
His previous convictions include impersonating a police officer and aggravated battery, which is a felony. He's also spent time in a mental institution.
But that's not the main reason why David Swan is a suspect.
There was a period of time on that Friday evening that his whereabouts couldn't be accounted for. He was actually in the wedding that Karen was going to go with him, and he showed up late for the rehearsal. People said he was acting kind of goofy. He finally realized or said that he had gone to an ATM, and they went back and pulled the video or surveillance from the ATM, and sure enough, there he was. So at that point, it was obvious that Mr. Swan wouldn't have had the time to have carried out this crime because of where everything was located and where everything was done.
Having eliminated David Swan as a suspect, police look at the next closest man in Karen's life, Michael Slover Jr.
Michael Slover Jr. worked security at a grocery store there in town. He also did karate lessons that he provided in people's homes, and then he was also a doorman at a local tavern.
Their relationship is a rocky one. There are allegations of abuse, but Michael Jr. can account for his whereabouts all day on Friday, September 27th.
He's at the store all day Friday, and in fact apprehends a shoplifter at 5 p.m.
At 6:10 p.m., he arrives at the home of Gene Schumann, where he teaches karate until about 6:45 p.m.
He shows up at the nightclub at about 8:10 p.m., where he works until 2 a.m. And when he gets the call from his mother at 10:15 p.m., coworkers see him crying, and he's visibly upset.
If that isn't enough, Michael Jr. is seen by someone else on Friday night.
Eleanor Woolery is a police officer in Decatur. She often sees Junior at the store when there's been a theft.
She's attending the scene of a car accident on Friday evening, while Junior walks across the street to say hello to her after the karate lesson and before he arrives at the bar.
You can't get a much better person to vouch for your alibi.
Investigators are satisfied that Michael Jr. did not have the time to do any of that on Friday night. He is eliminated as a suspect.
Well, after they clear the most obvious suspects, the investigation really starts to sprawl.
Karen had mentioned having an uneasy feeling about a couple of her work clients.
A part of her job is meeting with clients, often in a more casual setting than an office. It's possible one of them could have gotten the wrong idea and wanted more than a business relationship.
After looking into the remaining suspects, none of these leads go anywhere, and people start to feel frustrated. Karen's mother, Donna Hearn, writes an open letter to the killer, pleading for closure.
The Herald and Review offers a reward of $10,000 for information leading to the arrest and conviction of the killer.
1,400 tips come in during the first week of November. By December, police have 2,000 leads, but none of them are leading to a solid suspect.
The case begins to go stone cold. The investigation into the murder of Karen Hearn-Slover is at a standstill. In spite of thousands of tips flowing in and a long list of potential suspects, police find no answers and make no arrests. Karen's ex-in-laws are on the list of suspects who've been cleared, but their behavior continues to be strange and suspicious.
Back in September, after the murder, witnesses see Michael Sr. behaving a little strangely. They notice him burning stuff out at the car lot, and both he and his son Michael Jr. are seen cleaning up the place.
This is apparently really out of character for both of them, as Senior has owned the place for years and no one has ever seen either of them cleaning it up. But when investigators get a warrant and spend about 2 hours searching Miracle Motors, they don't find anything suspicious.
On February 6, 1997, investigators return to give it another try.
This time they used luminol and the Kastle-Meyer test, both of which are very good at detecting even tiny amounts of blood. But once again, they don't find anything.
While the mystery of who killed Karen Slover only deepens, a battle for custody of her son begins to take shape. In February 1997, Larry and Donna Hearn take Michael Slover Jr. to court over visitation rights with Brandon.
Ever since Karen's funeral, Junior has been making things very difficult for Larry and Donna. He basically cuts off communication with them, making it impossible for them to see their grandson.
The Hearns say that Junior is putting strict and unnecessary limitations on them. Don't talk to Brandon about Karen's murder. Don't visit her gravesite. He also forbids them to seek counseling for Brandon.
Unfortunately, the Hearns don't get much satisfaction for their efforts.
The judge simply confirms Junior's proposed dates and conditions for seeing their grandson. And then later he forbids them from keeping Brandon overnight.
Larry and Donna don't understand Junior's controlling behavior. In December of 1998, Michael Jr. is psychologically profiled by an analyst named Dr. James Butcher.
Dr. Butcher finds that Junior has difficulties with anger management and potential mental health problems. He endorsed a number of extreme and bizarre thoughts, suggesting the presence of delusions and/or hallucinations.
The analyst says that Junior believes that he has special mystical powers or a special mission in life that others just do not understand or accept.
Investigators learn that Michael Jr. also has a criminal record.
In 1989, he's convicted of gun possession. In 1991, he has 2 convictions, burglary and gun possession.
2 months after his ex-wife is murdered, he's caught accepting hundreds of dollars in bribes from shoplifters at the grocery store where he works as the security guard.
He's got some strange ideas and a criminal record, but that doesn't make him guilty of murder. And he has a rock-solid alibi, so he's pretty much a dead end as far as suspects go.
In December of 1999, Larry and Donna find out that something unbelievable happened to their grandson Brandon back in April.
Mary Slover adopted the boy, so that then his aunt became his mother on his birth certificate.
Mary Slover is Junior's sister, Karen's ex-sister-in-law.
She had custody of him. She quit her job. She had a pretty good job with the state, and she quit her job and moved to Tennessee. Michael Jr. went with her, along with a boy. One of the reasons we believe that they went there was that Tennessee had some of the least generous grandparent visitation rights in the country. So they moved there.
It will be harder for Larry and Donna Hearn to see their grandson if he's living in Tennessee, both legally and practically.
Michael Jr. claims that he's moving to Tennessee because he's found a higher-paying job there.
He claims he's working for a siding company, but a closer look reveals that he's actually working at a fast food restaurant.
Junior is accused of perjury for lying to the judge about the job.
And that was something suspicious as well. Why do you not want a 3-year-old child to see his maternal grandparents? And there was some wondering if maybe he had heard something, maybe he saw something, and they didn't want him saying it to Karen's mom and dad. So that was kind of a bizarre thing when the aunt adopts the child, and then moves out of state with it.
On Tuesday, March 10, 1998, authorities begin a third, more extensive search of Miracle Motors.
They bring in Richard Monroe, a forensic geologist who works for the Winnipeg Police Department in Canada. He's an expert in exactly this kind of thing.
And he came up with the idea of doing an archaeological dig, basically, at Miracle Motors. And they went out and laid out grids, collected the topsoil.
It will take Richard Monroe and his team of investigators 3 days to collect all of the samples, and then 3 weeks to carefully go through it all. If there's anything to find, they will find it.
None of the previous searches were this systematic and thorough. There's every reason to think this one will be more successful.
But if the search comes up empty again, it could mean that the murder of Karen Slover will remain unsolved forever. The investigation into the 1996 murder of Karen Hearn Slover has been at a standstill for a year and a half. Investigators have reason to suspect her ex-husband, Michael Slover Jr., but he has a rock-solid alibi. Junior's sister Mary quietly adopts the boy and moves to Tennessee before his grandparents have any idea what's happened. Investigators bring in an expert from Canada to do one more thorough search of the car lot owned by Michael Slover Sr., which he and Junior spent time cleaning right after Karen's disappearance. It could be the last chance to find out what happened to Karen Slover.
Karen, when her body was recovered, one of her arms still had a part of a shirt sleeve on it, the lower half. Her pants, her jeans were left on when she was dismembered. So we had those things which were very significant. The jeans that she was wearing were not Levi's. This was a short-run production through Maurice's, where Karen liked to shop. I believe there were only 1,250 pairs made in her size, which was 7 tall. And it was a 5-button front fly, and then there were rivets on the jeans as well. So this is a very unique short-run jean. You're not going to find pieces of those jeans all over the place because there were so few of them made. And when the search was conducted of the topsoil for Miracle Motors, there was a fly button and there were 2 rivets, which were identical to those that were on the jeans that she was wearing at the time. And also there was a plastic button with a white cloth covered face to it, which was identical to the button that was still on Karen's arm when it was recovered. And that was very significant evidence.
Legally speaking, there's a difference between knowing and proving. And unfortunately, a few buttons isn't enough to convince the prosecutor he can get a conviction.
In an unexpected turn of events, on June 18, 1998, Charles Pierce, who owns Pierce's Lawn and Garden Products, buys the old car lot property from the Slovers. He allows investigators to take concrete samples for the first time.
This is the 4th search of Miracle Motors' lot. Charles Pierce is clear that he's never added any concrete or cinders to the property. Whatever's there is left over from the Slovers.
Richard Monroe is able to determine that the concrete samples and the cinders are consistent with the ones that were found in the bags with Karen's body parts and on the floor of her car.
In February of 1999, a man named William Richter testifies before the grand jury.
William Richter buys and sells cars through Michael Slover Sr. They've known each other for years. Sr. has a dealer's license, so William pays him to do all of the paperwork and obtain dealer plates for his cars.
William tells the grand jury that on several occasions around the time of Karen's murder, he saw a gun in Sr.'s office.
He's not sure exactly what kind of gun it is, but it's a small revolver, about 4 to 4.5 inches long.
At first, he says he saw the gun before Karen's murder. Later, he says he's not sure if it was before or after. He apparently has memory issues because of his drinking.
In the year 2000, investigators receive a lucky break.
Dr. Joyce Halverston performed some DNA tests, which proved to be surprisingly valuable.
When the duct tape that sealed the bags was examined, there were some dog hairs that were adhered to the duct tape that closed the bags. Those were collected. When the search warrant was executed in March of 1998, Mike Mannix with state police, who was the lead agent at that time, decided he was going to get combings or brushings of the 2 dogs that the Slovers kept at Miracle Motors. He didn't really know why. He just thought maybe it'd be a good idea. Then a few years down the road, we discovered there was such a thing as canine DNA analysis. Troy Halverson was able to determine that some of the hairs that were collected from the duct tape came from one of the dogs kept there at the lot.
It's one thing to find rare buttons and snaps at the car lot, but a DNA match from the dog hair, it seems to prove that those body parts were bagged and sealed right there at Miracle Motors.
On January 27, 2000, 3.5 years after his ex-wife's murder, Michael Slover Jr. is arrested in Tennessee. His parents, Michael Sr. and Jeanette Slover, are also arrested and taken to the Macon County Jail.
They still aren't sure which one of them actually pulled the trigger, but police are convinced all 3 of them are involved.
It might be hard to get a conviction if they can't prove who did the killing.
With so many details of the crime still unknown, will authorities ever be able to bring Karen Hearn-Slover's killer to justice? DNA testing reveals that dog hairs found in bags containing the dismembered body of Karen Slover came from dogs belonging to Jeanette and Michael Sr. All 3 Slovers are arrested and charged with first-degree murder. On Monday, April 15, 2002, 5.5 years after the murder of Karen Hearn-Slover, the trial of Michael Slover Jr., Michael Slover Sr., and Jeanette Slover begins.
The prosecution paints a picture of a family who decides to kill Karen because they're afraid that she's going to accept an out-of-state modeling job and take her son away from them.
The prosecution also paints a vivid picture of Michael Slover Jr.
Michael Jr. Was not a very nice person, at least as far as Karen was concerned. There were numerous instances of him being physically abusive to her. We had witnesses to acts of domestic violence. He also had threatened to kill her at one point if she left the state with their child. We had witnesses come in and testify that after her funeral, all of his party went out to a bar, and he was making toasts and making disparaging comments about Karen, and basically that he was glad she was dead and he wouldn't have to mess with her anymore.
One friend recalls him saying, "That's one bitch I don't have to worry about."
In spite of all of this, Michael Jr. has a rock-solid alibi for the night of the murder. He simply could not be the one who did it. Michael Sr. and Jeanette, however, do not have solid alibis.
You knew there had to be multiple people involved. Somebody had to watch the boy. 2 people had to take her car out there and stage it to look like an abduction on I-72. Junior, one of the things that he did, he went out of his way to make an alibi that Friday night. There was a police officer that he had come into contact with through making shoplifting arrests. He was wanting to be seen, and who better to see him during the time that his wife is being abducted, killed, and cut up than to say, I talked to a police officer.
So while Junior is making himself seen, his parents are doing what needs to be done.
I believe that this was something that had been planned out well in advance, and all they needed was a triggering factor. We believe that the triggering factor was Karen talking to Michael Jr. 3 o'clock Friday afternoon, and we can only imagine she told him that she had a modeling job out of state. Perhaps she said she was taking the boy with her.
The last thing that is known for sure about Karen's day is that she leaves the newspaper building at 5 o'clock p.m.
We don't know where she was killed. It could have been at the Slovers' residence. It's possible she was lured to Miracle Motors. We don't know who shot her. There were different theories. I think it was, I was in the minority. I figured that Michael Sr. did it. He had more familiarity with guns than she did. I think most of the people that worked on the case felt that Jeanette did it because she was a woman who was filled with such rage And that may very well be. And of course, this was the being shot that many times in the head. That is pretty much a sign of rage.
The defense tries to poke holes in the prosecution's theories. They'll also make a big production out of the many sightings of Karen's car on the night she disappeared.
Their theory was this was a stranger abduction, and so they kind of picked and chose some of these sightings to try to show she was driving to Champaign, and she actually went to go to the Champaign Mall instead of the mall in Decatur. So in rebuttal, we called some of the other people that saw it at the exact same time, many miles away, but these people did not see the vehicle. They just thought they had seen it.
On May 17, 2002, Michael Slover Jr., Michael Slover Sr., and Jeanette Slover are found guilty of first-degree murder. On June 28, 2002, they are sentenced to 60 years in prison.
Michael Slover Jr. and Sr. are each sentenced to an additional 5 years for concealment of a homicide because they tried to clean up the car lot.
Larry and Donna Hearn are satisfied by the outcome, but there's still one more injustice to correct.
On August 27, 2003, Macon County Judge Scott D. Diamond rules that Karen's sister-in-law Mary Slover is an unfit parent of Brandon.
Mary Slover helped her family cover up a murder, the murder of Brandon's natural mother. That's not going to do anything to help her case in the eyes of the court.
Larry and Donna are finally given guardianship of their now 10-year-old grandson.
There was also a lot of doubts in the community that we would be able to prove this case. And I can remember during the trial, people I knew said, they're going to get off of this, aren't they? And I'm like, well, we'll see. Everybody wanted justice in such a shocking, heinous crime. In the end, it was just a sense of extreme satisfaction for the Hearn family, getting them justice.
Thanks to a grieving family's strength and the years of hard work by an entire team of detectives, lawyers, and other experts, 3 depraved and vicious killers are finally caught.